Welcome to HFY Starkviller, where humanity doesn't just survive, it sings. Mira Adler was 17 years old when the universe whispered her name. Not in a dream, not through prophecy, but in something stranger. Stranger and far more real. She lay on the rusted metal roof of a weather-beaten barn that sat on the outskirts of Sandridge, Wyoming, population 4,381 and steadily shrinking. The town had been dying long before she was born. Most people her age couldn't wait to escape it. Mira didn't mind it here. The skies were clear, unpolluted. No lights to drown the stars. Just endless black velvet draped with pinpricks of wonder. She could name constellations in seconds, trace orbits with her fingers, and tell the time by the position of Jupiter in the sky. Her bedroom walls weren't covered in posters of bands or actors. They were plastered with star charts, mission patches, old NASA diagrams, and photos of Carl Sagan and Vera Rubin. On this night, a night like any other, silent and windless, Mira lay staring upward with her battered flashlight resting across her chest. She had just finished sketching the tail of the Perseid meteor shower in her spiral-bound notebook when she saw it. A blink near Cassiopeia's belt, 3 quick flashes, then 3 slow ones, then 3 quick again. She sat up fast, nearly rolling off the roof. Her flashlight hit the metal with a clatter. Eyes wide, breath caught, Mira stared. She knew what that was. SOS, in perfect Morse. Her heart thudded. This was no plane, no satellite, no reflection. The pattern had structure, purpose. She picked up the flashlight with trembling fingers and pointed it at the stars. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short, reply sent. And the stars answered. For hours that night, Mira stayed on the roof, signaling and watching. The light above twinkled in response, not random, not atmospheric, but deliberate, intelligent. At 3:47 a.m., it blinked out and didn't return. By then, Mira's fingers were numb and her notebook was covered in scribbles. Dots and dashes filled 3 pages. It wasn't just SOS anymore. There were sequences, repetitions. She recognized some characters. Her eyes scanned and rescanned the patterns, searching for meaning. The next night, it returned, same position, same cadence. This time, Mira was ready. She'd rigged a tripod-mounted halogen lamp on her dad's old generator. Its bright pulse could reach the tree line. She tapped out hello with carefully timed bursts. The light from Cassiopeia responded with a pause, then echoed her message back, faster. Hello, she whispered. And it began. Over the next 3 weeks, Mira's barn roof became mission control. She spent hours comparing responses, matching signals, building charts. Her school attendance dropped. Friends texted, she ignored them. Her parents argued behind closed doors, she didn't care. Something was out there, talking to her, and nothing else mattered. Bit by bit, the light above shifted from imitation to initiative. It began sending new sequences, numbers, then symbols. Then repeated patterns Mira couldn't identify. She fed the messages into a language processor, using modified linguistic tools from an old MIT open-source database. The results weren't readable, but they were consistent. Structured. Someone's talking to me, she said aloud one night, lying flat on the barn roof. Someone intelligent, someone patient. The light pulsed once, a pause, then 2 more. Short, long. Long, short. New code, she answered. It returned faster. The pattern began adapting to her timing. And then came the breakthrough. The pattern paused for 38 seconds. Then it sent a string of symbols Mira hadn't seen before, unfamiliar but symmetrical. She copied them and responded with, "Who are you?" There was a long delay. Then, echo. Echo. She blinked. It was a name, or an attempt at one. Then came the next line. "You safe, IWIT, no signal home." Chills ran down her arms. "You're trapped," she whispered. "You're stranded. 2 days later, Echo revealed more. The lights pulsed with increasing complexity. She'd built a decoding matrix on her laptop and was now using a voice program to map Echo's syntax into basic English. Over slow, painstaking nights, she learned. Echo was not a being in the human sense, not bone and blood. Something different, bioluminal, fractal, soft-bodied, and capable of surviving in high radiation zones. Echo had come from a distant system, traveling alone to observe, study, and return. A collapse event, some form of interstellar accident, had forced Echo to hide. It had taken refuge in the rings of Saturn, veiling itself within electromagnetic interference. Its ship was damaged beyond self-repair, no way home. No way to transmit to its people. Mira read the decoded phrases again and again. Study humans. Choose safest signal. You why me? She typed back. Echo replied. You watch sky. You pattern. You kind. She sat back, heart hammering. Of all the billions on Earth, it had chosen her. On the morning of August 20th, Mira's inbox exploded. Hundreds of unread messages. Astronomy forums buzzed. An anomalous signal had been picked up in low Earth orbit, a regular transmission in light pulses. It was coming from the outer solar system. Corporations were interested. Governments were curious. Satellites were being reoriented. One name surfaced again and again. Galaxcore. A private aerospace conglomerate. Billions in defense contracts. They controlled more orbital assets than most nations. Their tracking systems had tagged the anomaly as non-terrestrial. They were coming. And they were not looking to make friends. Mira had never been to the Galaxcore headquarters in Arizona, but she knew it like the back of her hand. She had studied it for years. While most of her peers in Sandridge dreamt of college, fashion, or getting out of town, Mira had devoured everything she could find about orbital defense systems, satellite trajectories, and deep sky anomaly tracking. Galaxcore was the gatekeeper of space, and now that gate was creaking open. She scoured the forums in silence, heart racing. Threads filled with speculation. Theories, wild guesses. Some believed it was a glitch. Others, those with military clearances, weren't so dismissive. A few claimed the light wasn't random. One even posted a waveform chart. Mira's stomach dropped. It was Echo's signal. Someone had intercepted it. Galaxcore's deep scan A would be all over it. Within 48 hours, the forum post was gone. The user deleted, scrubbed clean. Mira knew what that meant. Echo was no longer safe. She tapped her flashlight again that night. 3 dots, 3 dashes, 3 dots, SOS. Echo answered immediately. The response was strained. The cadence jittered. Found danger, no hide soon. She froze. What do you mean, no hide soon? She whispered. The next message chilled her. Hunters near. See all? Steel thought. Trap light. Mira stared at the sky, eyes wide. Echo wasn't just afraid of discovery. It was terrified. Meanwhile, down on Earth, Galaxcore wasn't wasting time. Their orbital surveillance AI, Thales, had isolated the signal's origin. Using predictive modeling and fusion-powered quantum triangulation, Thales narrowed it to within 300 kilometers of Saturn's B-ring. The corporation dispatched its most secret program, Orbital Intercept Vessel, Astral Shroud. Disguised as a mining surveyor, it left from lunar base Blackridge at 0300 UTC. No press release. No public announcement. No intention of peace. Mira found the launch listing buried in a hidden flight registry. She read the mission tag and felt her pulse spike. Intercept, silence, secure. They were going to capture Echo, or kill it. Mira made her decision. She didn't sleep that night. She spent it digging. Code, forums, aerospace maps. By morning, she had a plan, insane, reckless, probably suicidal. She was going to get to Saturn. No commercial space flights went beyond lunar orbit, not for civilians. Even getting to Mars was a billion-dollar mission. But Mira had something else. access to her uncle's repair shop, and a hacked exohabitat pod stored in a junkyard near Sandridge. She'd spent years modifying it for fun, unaware that it might one day be her only hope. The capsule, nicknamed Firefly, was barely more than a welded shell, but Mira had made it better. She'd replaced the nav core with open-source AI retrofitted heat shielding, and scavenged an old life support system from a defunct Chinese satellite drop. She ran the numbers again. It wasn't enough. She needed more power. And she needed a trajectory boost. Then it hit her piggyback. The space elevator in Quito was launching cargo pods in 5 days. She would sneak aboard one. Use the launch vector to break orbit. Once in low Earth gravity, she'd activate Firefly's ionic drive and sling herself toward Saturn using a gravitational assist from Mars. It was madness. It was perfect. She typed her plan into the cracked screen of her tablet and uploaded it to a private node under the label Project Wavelength. Echo responded that night with confusion. No safe path, danger many. Mira typed slowly, I'm coming anyway. WHY. She stared up at the stars. Because you blinked at me, she whispered. The launch tower loomed above the fog like the skeleton of a forgotten god. The Quito space elevator was the tallest structure humanity had ever built, a thin tether stretching from Earth's crust to a counterweight in high orbit, humming with cargo, energy, and secrets. Mira stood in its shadow at dawn, her backpack stuffed with only the essentials, nutrient paste, 2 power cores, a compressed suit, and a tablet pulsing with Echo's last message. Waiting, signal strong, fear grows. Every hour brought Galaxcor's intercept vessel closer. Firefly sat buried in a transport crate bound for high orbit, camouflaged in civilian scrap, riding beneath a bulk shipment of graphene sheets and microreactors. She had one shot. If she missed the timing, if she was caught, if even one calculation failed, she would burn up in the upper atmosphere, or worse, drift alone forever in the black. But she didn't hesitate. At 6:42 a.m., Mira slipped past the final checkpoint using a cloned QR badge stolen from a maintenance worker's toolkit. At 7:04 a.m., the cargo crate containing Firefly was magnetically sealed into the suborbital rail pod. By 7:10 a.m., Mira was inside. The ride was brutal. Firefly shook as the crate detached, jettisoned at near-terminal velocity into the thin upper atmosphere. The protective foam casing buckled and burned away. Mira braced, heart pounding, as the stars overhead expanded. Gravity released her like a clenched fist. She was in freefall. Not down, but out. Outside the porthole, Earth curved below like a sleeping beast. The elevator tower narrowed to a pin, disappearing into clouds. Firefly's systems hummed to life. The old AI, stitched together from scavenged code and Mira's own voice, spoke with a dry tone. Trajectory within 2.4% margin. Escape vector aligned. Initiating ion burn in 30 seconds. She floated in 0G, stomach twisting, eyes wide with exhilaration and fear. Do it, she whispered. The engine lit. A whisper of blue flame, silent, relentless, beautiful. The journey stretched across days. Mira rationed oxygen, recycled fluids, and kept the solar panels aimed toward the sun. She spoke to the sometimes. Other times, she watched the stars blur. And all the while, she sent signals, short bursts of light aimed toward Saturn. Echo responded, always. They spoke in halting language, a hybrid of Morse, gesture codes, and machine-generated translations. Mira called it Starlight Pigeon. Each message carried fragments of emotion. I hide in stone, rings protect, hunters near. We speak, we mirror. You understand. They cut sky, steal light, end voice. Echo described Galaxcor's vessel, the Astral Shroud, in trembling detail. It moved like a predator, masking its emissions, trailing sensor ghosts, disrupting magnetic fields. It had already fired once. A warning shot that vaporized a piece of Echo's damaged craft. "They're not here to negotiate," Mira whispered. "They're here to end this." Echo pulsed a mournful reply. "Yes, as always, fear of light." As she neared Saturn, Mira's ship shuddered. The outer sensors flared. A proximity alert. Firefly's AI spoke calmly. "Unidentified object approaching at intercept vector. Heat signature consistent with military engine output." Mira's blood went cold. The astral shroud had found her. She dove toward the rings. Firefly screamed as gravity clawed at its hull. Particles whipped past like shrapnel. Mira wrestled with the controls, punching commands through lagging software. Below her, Saturn's rings stretched like a frozen river of shattered mirrors, and somewhere within them, Echo waited. A beam of light sliced past her cockpit. A warning. The astral shroud had her in sight. "Brace for evasive action," the AI warned. "No," Mira hissed. "Let me go dark." She powered down everything, lights, core, nav beacons, drifted, camouflaged in debris, and prayed. Outside the viewport, the stars blinked. Echo found her first. A soft pulse of light, faint, rhythmically precise. She blinked once, then again. It was him. Echo emerged from the shadows, not a ship, but a being. A floating filament of shifting matter, constantly folding, refracting starlight, its tendrils pulsing with soft, translucent color. It moved like language. It was language. Mira's heart nearly stopped. "You're beautiful," she whispered. The light curled toward her, not touching, but surrounding her like a halo. "Welcome," and then like a final whisper of warning, "They come fast." The rings of Saturn trembled. Mira floated beside Echo, the alien shimmering like living crystal, half-cloaked in the debris field. The astral shroud approached in silence, a sleek, obsidian fang cutting through space, silent and hungry. Its weapons glowed faintly beneath its skin. Not missiles. Not lasers. Something worse, weapons designed to erase, to unmake. Galaxcore didn't just want to hide first contact. They wanted to erase it. Mira whispered, "We need to run." But Echo pulsed a message across the starlit void. No more hiding. He rose above the ring field like a beacon, his form expanding, refracting light into complex geometry. His language changed, from gentle pulses to full bursts of patterned radiance. Mira recognized it immediately. He was broadcasting to the human ship, a final attempt at peace. But the astral shroud did not reply. It fired. The beam hit Echo dead center. For a moment, Mira thought he had died. But then, like a dropped prism, Echo shattered and duplicated. Dozens of mirror shards spun out in all directions, each refracting new light patterns, confusing the ship's sensors. It was a defense mechanism, not death, but evolution. Firefly AI gasped, almost in awe. "They're splitting his signature. The enemy can't target him." "Neither can I." Mira yelled, gripping the controls. Correction. One signature is converging. One of Echo's refracted shards had folded back toward her ship. It pulsed. Touch, join, trust. Without hesitation, Mira reached forward, and the tendril of alien light extended through Firefly's shattered hull, gently wrapping around her wrist. Suddenly, Mira understood everything. There was no translation, no language barrier. There was experience poured directly into her mind, like a dream unfolding at light speed. She saw Echo's species, not warriors but archivists spread across galaxies to study and learn. She felt their terror when first contact attempts failed, not once, not twice, but every time. Humans weren't unique in their fear. Other species had tried to destroy them too. So Echo had hidden and waited. Until Mira spoke to the stars. He didn't respond because he was strong. He responded because he was lonely. Back in her body, Mira gasped. Her mind felt changed, expanded, like a tunnel had opened between her thoughts and something vast. Echo pulsed again, now brighter, one last chance. Then he turned and raced toward the astral shroud. Mira screamed, No, but she understood his intent. He wasn't going to fight. He was going to broadcast everything, his memories, his language, his dreams. He would overload the human ship with meaning so vast, so unfiltered, that it couldn't be ignored. A psychic broadcast. An alien soul flung at the heart of human fear. It worked, almost. The astral shroud halted, caught in a storm of incomprehensible data. Its weapons dimmed. Its course wavered. But Galaxcor had prepared for this. A failsafe AI within the ship began purging foreign data. It treated Echo's message like a virus. The signal began to fracture. "He's dying," Firefly AI whispered. "They're burning out the waveform." Mira didn't think, she acted. She rerouted her ship's transmitter, patched it into Echo's broadcast frequency, and merged their signals, voice and light together. Human and alien, one message, one truth. Across space, she spoke into the stars. "He's not your enemy, he's a person. You don't erase people. You listen." And the stars paused. For a moment, space fell into a strange, impossible silence. Then came the echo. Not Echo the being, but Echo the signal. Mira's words, now fused with the alien's radiant pulse of memory, traveled not just to the astral shroud but beyond. Every buoy near Saturn pinned with sudden overload. A chain reaction began across the solar system. By the time Galaxcor's damage control protocols tried to isolate the transmission, it was far too late. The message had bounced. Off Mars relay stations, off lunar satellites, off deep space telescopes still listening for distant quasars. A single burst of truth racing toward Earth like a meteor of understanding. Echo collapsed. Not physically, his form still shimmered in the debris field, but something in him dimmed. He had given too much. The projection flickered like a candle in vacuum. Mira pulled Firefly beside him, cockpit flashing red from stress fractures. Her voice trembled. "Echo, did we make them listen?" A faint pulse responded, maybe some ENOUGH. Earth, 2 hours later. Inside Galaxcor's Black Site HQ, buried beneath the Nevada desert, screens erupted with chaos. Every node, every corporate and public stream was contaminated. Or, as the engineers argued, awakened. The data was incoherent by normal standards. Color fractals, foreign math, ancient memories of stars being born. Feelings of loss and curiosity fused into waveform poetry. No one knew how to process it. But everyone felt it. From professors to farmers, a single phrase rippled through comment sections, podcasts, and whispered barside conversations. "Something just spoke to us, and it felt kind." Galaxcor's board of directors met within an hour. Damage control plans were initiated. A new narrative, test pattern anomaly, SEOP experiment leaked. Nothing alien. But the world didn't believe them this time. Mira had seen to that. Her words, her voice, had been part of the transmission. And across Earth, people began to search the skies again. Back in orbit, the astral shroud had gone silent. It hadn't fired again. Firefly limped toward the moon on emergency thrust. Echo cradled in the auxiliary cargo chamber Mira had gutted for him. The journey was slow, days long, but no one chased them. The silence from Earth was not a threat. It was a pause, a breath. Mira stared out at the infinite velvet of space. Echo slept now, his light dim but warm. Her body ached. Her mind spun with exhaustion and awe. Her AI's voice finally broke the silence. "You did it, Mira." They blinked back. She smiled, eyes glassy. "No," she said softly. "We did." The moon hung quiet. Not the front-facing side, the one dressed for tourists and satellites, but the far side. Shadowed and scarred, home to secrets even conspiracy theorists hadn't guessed. It was here that Mira landed Firefly, battered and trembling. She stepped out onto the regolith in a patched EVA suit. Echo's containment pod cradled in the rover behind her. The alien's light glowed faintly through the cracked casing. Not dead, not whole, but resting. They were supposed to hide here. But hiding didn't feel right anymore. The stars above had changed. Mira could feel it in her bones, or maybe in the strange low vibration Echo left in her thoughts. Something shifted when they fused transmissions. A bridge had been built between species, even if narrow and fragile. And the world hadn't burned. Not yet. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in a forgotten lava tube, now repurposed as a clandestine observatory by Mira's old hacker contacts, a cluster of rebel scientists greeted her arrival. Among them were old friends. And new ones. A woman with a biomech arm who used to teach astrophysics. A man who defected from Galaxcore with stolen AI blueprints. A kid who once live-streamed telescope hacks to millions. They called themselves Project Wavelength, not a resistance, a relay. Their goal was simple: keep the signal alive. Make sure the world keeps listening. Mira stood at the center of a hollowed-out lab. Cables draped like veins, screens pulsing with slow alien fractals. She uploaded the full Echo transmission into the observatory's broadcast stack. And then, with her voice raw and quiet, she recorded a new message. "My name is Mira. I spoke to the stars." One of them spoke back. "They are not gods. They are not monsters. They are people, and they are watching us now." She didn't cry. Not yet. But many listening on Earth did. Earth orbit, 1 week later. The astral shroud was gone. No battle, no fire. It simply vanished, recalled, perhaps, or retreated into some deeper orbit. But its absence did not erase what it witnessed. For the first time in human history, everyone had seen the same impossible thing. It wasn't just a UFO in a blurry video. It was emotion, a voice in the dark, a call and response. And now across continents, humans did what they did best. They argued. China built a deep space cum tower overnight, claiming sovereignty over interstellar diplomacy. The U.S. Senate passed emergency funding for planetary cultural defense. Brazil, Germany, and France announced joint missions to search for Echo's kind, with peaceful intent. Religious groups split. Some denounced the alien as demonic, others as angelic, most unsure. But beneath the noise, something deeper stirred. Young people, artists, coders, musicians, they began to translate the alien patterns into light shows, into rhythm, into stories. Humanity was no longer afraid. Humanity was curious. It started with silence. For days, Earth listened. Radio telescopes scoured the void. Deep space arrays hummed with anticipation. And the rebel wavelength lab beneath the moon kept its comms open, whispering into the darkness. Mira, watching over Echo's stasis pod, wondered if they'd spoken too loudly. If they'd burned the bridge before it was even built. Then, at 3:14 GMT, it happened. A single burst of non-directional transmission, not aimed at any one nation, not filtered through corporate systems. A pulse so strong it disrupted satellites and knocked out 3 Martian rovers. Encoded within the waveform were 5 glyphs. And beneath them, a pattern Mira knew by heart. The same blink Echo gave her that first night in the orchard. The glyphs formed no alphabet, but they weren't meaningless. A linguist within Project Wavelength, a mute woman named Dr. Sar, ran the waveform through Echo's fractal memory database. Her hands danced over the keys. No words spoken, only patterns, color, pulse, and slowly, translation emerged. The alien response was not a greeting, it was a recognition. A kind of cosmic tilt of the head. "We see you, we mark you, we grieve one of our own." Mira leaned against the cold steel wall of the lab. She felt the message like a drumbeat in her ribs. Echo wasn't alone. He never had been. More messages followed, each more complex than the last. They didn't demand territory. They didn't issue ultimatums. They told stories. Of a civilization adrift in light years, building neural lattice memory ships that lived for millennia. Of explorers sent across star winds to archive new minds, cultures, languages. Of a silent war with something they only called the Hallowed, beings who spoke but felt nothing. And of Echo, the youngest among them, who vanished near a blue world with chaotic signals and beautiful static. Us, Earth, human reaction was messy. Some governments demanded the aliens prove they meant no harm. Others tried to weaponize the alien math, using Echo's shared frequencies to try and trigger their defenses. Nothing worked because the messages weren't meant for power. They were meant for understanding. And that made them far more dangerous to those who ruled by fear. In the lunar cavern, Echo stirred. He flickered, slow and disoriented. His voice, no longer just light, hummed faintly in Mira's skull. You risked all. Mira smiled, pale and tired. So did you. He blinked once, then sent a soft beam toward the observatory ceiling. It wasn't a word. It was a melody, one Mira had heard before. Her grandfather's violin piece, the one she'd once played under the stars. Echo had heard it, stored it, shared it with his kind. They hadn't just seen Earth, they'd felt it. The next message from the stars was shorter, just one glyph, one meaning. Come. Mira stood at the edge of the launch platform. The Earth floated in the black above her, a swirl of blue and storm. Behind her, Firefly had been refitted, fueled by tech no human had seen before. Project Wavelength called it the Lightstep engine. It pulsed with Echo's signature. They weren't just launching a ship, they were launching a conversation. And Mira, the girl who once blinked at stars, would be humanity's first reply. The ship called Firefly was no longer just Mira's. Beneath its lunar-patched hull, alien architecture pulsed like a heartbeat. Not mechanical, not organic, but something in between. The Lightstep engine didn't hum. It breathed, folding space like soft fabric. As Mira floated in the pilot's cradle, she watched the Earth shrink into a trembling sapphire. Behind her, everything she'd known. Ahead, everything she couldn't imagine. She reached out, not with fingers, but thought. Echo, still cradled in the ship's central core, responded with a gentle tone across her consciousness. Together. The journey was not linear. There were no stars whipping past like in movies. No blue-shifted warp tunnel. Just a constant sensation of falling upward. Firefly didn't move through space. It stepped between the folds of it, guided by coordinates encoded in a song Echo's people had buried inside his core long ago. Each note led them closer. Each chord bent the laws of what Mira had believed possible. Somewhere between Saturn and the void beyond Pluto, they passed through the Mira layer, a sheath of fractured reality that reflected not what was, but what had been feared. Mira saw herself, alone, older, forgotten. Earth, a silent ember behind her, but Echo's pulse cut through the vision. Not truth, only shadow. She gripped the interface node, grounding herself in thought, in memory. She remembered the orchard. The stars winking back. That memory pulled her through. They emerged on the other side into a realm not charted by any telescope. A black expanse, utterly dark, but pulsing with symmetrical lattice of soft, intelligent light. It wasn't a star system. It was a consciousness cluster, a region of space curated and sculpted by Echo species over eons. And waiting at its center was a structure unlike anything Mira had ever seen. A cathedral of thought, vast, geometric, glimmering with rhythmic pulses like brainwaves made visible. As Firefly docked, no arms reached out to grab them, no guards, no escorts. Just a single shimmering corridor that opened itself before Mira, lit with light she could hear and taste. Echo floated beside her, no longer confined to the pod. His full form revealed, part prism, part shadow, unfolding and collapsing with every step like a language given shape. They walked in silence. And then the voices came, not words, not language, feelings. Hundreds of presences surrounded her, Entities shaped like music, color, fragments of memory. They weren't bodies. They were echoes of consciousness stored in light. They called themselves the chorus. Mira's mind trembled under their gaze, but they didn't pierce or invade. They simply listened, pulling fragments of her memory, reviewing what Earth had shown Echo, what she had risked, what she felt. Finally, one stepped forward. It shimmered silver and red, like coral reflecting moonlight. It sang, "We have watched, we have doubted, but now we have hoped." Mira swallowed hard. "I'm not a diplomat," she said aloud, unsure if they'd even hear her voice. "I'm not even a scientist." She looked up, wide-eyed and small before the chorus. "I'm just someone who answered." The chamber dimmed, then shimmered, then sang. The decision came not in a proclamation, but in a shared vision, given not just to Mira, but beamed across the void back to Earth, to every satellite, phone, and open receiver. A child beneath stars, a flickering light in hand, a whisper shared across galaxies, and a voice that replied not in thunder, but in harmony. Humanity was invited, not as subjects, not as pets, as peers, as listeners. The transmission from the chorus spread like wildfire across Earth's skies. First, through the open satellite networks. Then, bleeding into fiber optic lines, cell towers, even low-frequency weather balloons. The alien signal wasn't encrypted, it was offered. A gift in wavelengths the human brain didn't recognize as speech, but somehow still understood. Children cried and didn't know why. Elders stood in silence and remembered lullabies they had never been taught. Across oceans and deserts, something changed. It was as if Earth itself had been heard. And now it was answering. In the control rooms of Project Wavelength, no one spoke for 7 minutes. Every screen, every frequency monitor, every diagnostic terminal was flooded with the same vision Mira had received. Her flashlight blinking into the void. A reply from the stars. 2 beings, 1 human, 1 alien, walking through light. Governments scrambled to control the narrative. But it was too late. The message wasn't stored in servers. It lived inside people now. Mira returned not in secret, but in fire. Firefly's descent into Earth's atmosphere was guided by the chorus, wrapped in an energy signature that rewrote the ionosphere with shimmering equations. From space, Earth's magnetic field lit up like a neural web. When she touched down in the old orchard clearing where it all began, there were no guns. No soldiers. Just people, hundreds of them, some crying, some kneeling. All watching. Echo hovered beside her, dimmer now, not from weakness, but reverence. He projected a pulse outward, soft and harmonic. To Mira, it sounded like home. To the rest of Earth, it was music. The kind that made war generals set down their medals. The kind that made children sit still and stare at the sky. The kind that made those who once feared the unknown now long for it. The chorus did not send ships. They did not build embassies. Instead, they gave Earth 3 things. The Harmony Archive, a living library of over 5 million species they had once encountered, each with its own story, language, and lesson. The Mirror Gate, a tool that allowed individuals to step into the memories of others, not as observers, but as feelers, to see what another had felt, to walk in their breath. The Listening Beacon, a small crystal tower that once planted in Earth's crust, made Earth visible to other civilizations that sought peace, curiosity, and exchange. But only if Earth wanted to be seen. Debate raged, politicians fumbled for control. Nations argued over who owned the artifacts. But in the end, none of that mattered, because the beacon required a human to choose. Not a president, not a general, not a CEO, just one voice. Mira stepped forward. She looked to Echo, who pulsed once, a quiet encouragement. And she spoke. I was a girl who stared at stars and wondered if they'd ever blink back. She placed her hand on the crystal tower. They did. And the beacon sang. From that moment, Earth was never alone again. Stars once silent now whispered. Civilizations once hidden now replied. And across the galaxy, Earth was added to the map, not for its weapons, not for its science, but for its curiosity. Its willingness to answer a blink in the dark. Its courage to listen. Years passed, not quietly, but with purpose, with hope. Mira, once a lonely stargazer with a flashlight, had become a quiet symbol, not of power, not of politics, but of possibility. Her name was not stamped into cities or monuments. She had asked they not be. Instead, she taught. Not in universities, in green fields, on rooftops, through open comms as she wandered the world in a ship that could vanish into folds of space. Children waited eagerly for her transmissions. She didn't lecture. She shared. Her voice, calm and human, would say things like, "I met a being made of song today. He had no mouth, but he laughed like thunder in water." Or, "I touched the dream of a jelly-like lifeform from a sulfuric moon. It saw me as a warm breeze." And then she'd end the feed with a single line, "Keep blinking at the stars." They remember. The chorus watched, not from orbit, not in ships, but through resonance, through the harmony gate that now flickered softly in orbit above Earth, disguised as a dim, motionless star. They did not interfere. They did not dictate. They learned through humanity's art, its chaos, its humor, its contradictions. They added human songs to their archives, human tears, human recipes, human wonder. They had expected fear. They had been prepared for violence. Instead, they found stories, laughter, resistance against fear, not through weapons, but through connection. Humanity had begun to change the chorus. One day, Firefly carried Mira beyond the known resonance gates, past the edge of where even chorus memories reached. Echo pulsed beside her, his form more complex now, layered in new harmonic colors, hints of Earth's own patterns folded into him. He asked, "Ready to see?" She didn't answer aloud, she just smiled. The ship slipped into a pocket of space like no other. There was no gravity here. No stars, just a single ripple. And then a song, impossibly deep, impossibly old. Echo trembled beside her. First light, original song, she understood then. The chorus had not created the gates, they had inherited them. They, too, were once wanderers who had answered a signal. The universe had been blinking long before humans ever looked up. And somewhere, far older than any race, there had been the first voice. Echo translated fragments for her as they traveled the silent realm of the origin gate. You are not first. You will not be last, but you are heard. And in hearing, you become part of the eternal chorus. So long as one answers, the universe sings. She returned home changed, not superhuman, not divine, just aware. That Earth was part of something beautiful, something fragile, yes, but stitched with threads of story across the stars. And it had all started with a blink, a girl, a flashlight, and a star that winked back. Years from now, children would ask where it all began. And sometimes, when the stars were especially bright and the wind was still, parents would tell them about a girl named Mira, the one who asked the universe a question with nothing but a flashlight and hope. They'd speak of the night the sky blinked back, the night an alien voice answered not with invasion, but with curiosity, the night fear lost and wonder won. Mira never ruled a nation. She never owned a weapon. Her power was asking and listening. Her legacy wasn't carved in stone. It was whispered in classrooms, sung in lullabies, painted in murals under school domes across Mars and Europa. In every place where a human child looked up and wondered, she lived on. And Echo? He returned to the stars, his resonance forever changed. Not just a translator of alien tongues, now a keeper of Earth's story. He carried human songs through the void. He taught the chorus how to laugh. And he left behind echoes of his own, gentle pulses buried in starlight, waiting for new voices to answer. The universe would go on, unfolding, expanding, searching. But somewhere, Hidden in the long memory of the stars was this truth. One quiet world, one stubborn girl, one blink returned. And everything changed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this journey with others. Until next time, keep looking up.